Buckingham Palace have slammed the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle Sussex drama. Trust me when I tell you that Prince Harry is not a well man. This is a man totally overwhelmed by the wacky-backy.
Just when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle thought they were finally heading back to Britain, everything appears to be falling apart. What was supposed to be one of the biggest royal comebacks in years is now surrounded by chaos, controversy, and a growing list of unanswered questions.
Well, I think you can summarize it in 2 words: desperation and failure.
Reports suggest the Sussexes' planned UK trip could be in serious trouble, and the reason behind it is causing an absolute storm. But here's where things get even stranger. This isn't just about security anymore. Critics are once again pointing to Harry's past admissions about substance use, questioning whether years of controversial decisions, public battles, and constant drama have finally caught up with him.
Trust me when I tell you that Prince Harry is not a well man. This is a man totally overwhelmed by the wacky-backy. Even his holiday in Portugal is designed to go to a place where you can smoke the wacky-backy legally. By the way, Harry, you can't do it in this country, so I'm quite surprised he wants to come back.
Meanwhile, Meghan is facing accusations of trying to cash in on every headline, with critics claiming she somehow manages to turn even the biggest royal controversies into business opportunities. And if that wasn't enough, King Charles is once again being dragged into the middle of the mess. Because the trip that was supposed to bring Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet back to Britain may not even happen at all.
A shocking headline in the Mail on Sunday: dismay for the King, as Harry says he may not bring Meghan and the kids to London, having been refused armed royal protection.
For weeks, there had been growing speculation that Harry was preparing for a major return to the UK. This wasn't supposed to be just another quick visit. There were reports of important engagements, possible family meetings, and perhaps the biggest talking point of all, Archie and Lilibet potentially returning to Britain alongside their parents.
Now, this is a shocking setback for Harry. It places the whole trip in doubt, and it threatens to completely derail the Sussexes' efforts to rehabilitate their public image and to re-enter the royal family.
After years of family tensions, years of interviews, documentaries, accusations, and public feuds, many believed this could finally be the moment when at least some bridges started getting rebuilt. Instead, the exact opposite appears to be happening. The entire trip is now being overshadowed by yet another security battle. Harry has spent years fighting over protection arrangements in Britain. Ever since stepping down as a working royal, he has argued that the level of security provided to him and his family is no longer sufficient. The issue has followed him through court battles, public statements, and endless headlines. Now it's back again.
Harry's security meltdown. He is losing his mind. The increasingly mad and unhinged Duke of Sussex has gone completely crazy over personal security during his return trip to the United Kingdom.
And according to growing reports, concerns over security may have become so serious that the entire visit could be scaled back or even abandoned altogether. The reaction online was immediate. Many people simply couldn't understand it.
What Prince Harry is doing there is slamming his father. Yet again, slamming King Charles yet again publicly. This is so mortifying.
Critics pointed out that Harry has traveled all over the world in recent years. He has attended events across multiple countries. He has appeared publicly in locations many would consider far more dangerous than central London. So why is Britain suddenly being portrayed as the place where he feels uncomfortable bringing his family? That's the question people keep asking. And the more this story develops, the more attention it attracts. Because whether people support Harry or criticize him, one thing is impossible to deny. Every time a major royal reunion seems within reach, another crisis somehow appears out of nowhere.
You're not even getting the palace. Do you know what? You're not getting to stay in Buckingham Palace because you have shamed this country, shamed the British royal family. You're not even getting the palace.
But then the story took another turn. As security concerns dominated headlines, critics started revisiting something Harry probably wishes would stop following him around: his own comments about substances. Over the past few years, Harry has openly discussed using psychedelic substances and other substances during different periods of his life. He described some of those experiences as part of his efforts to deal with trauma and emotional struggles. At the time, those admissions generated headlines around the world. Now they are being brought up all over again.
Just no.
Several commentators have argued that Harry's recent behavior raises fresh questions about his judgment. Others claim his constant battles with institutions, family members, governments, and the media have become increasingly difficult to understand. To be clear, these are opinions being expressed by critics, not proven facts. But the conversation is growing louder. And for Harry, the timing couldn't be worse. Instead of headlines about veterans, charity work, or family reconciliation, the spotlight is once again focused on controversy.
The only reason he wants to come here, and everyone needs to realize this, is because his career has collapsed in the United States of America. Meghan Markle's dream of becoming a Hollywood billionaire in America has collapsed. It's over. The staff are leaving. The rats are abandoning this sinking ship.
The planned UK visit is under pressure. The security dispute is dominating coverage. Questions about his past are resurfacing, and public debate is intensifying by the day. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle has found herself caught in a completely different storm. Because while the royal drama was exploding across headlines, critics noticed something else happening in the background. Another product launch, another business promotion, another attempt to build her lifestyle brand.
Now, Meghan Markle, speaking of appropriate time, believes that this moment is a great time to sell her new honey. Don't buy it, by the way. Sounds awful. Lavender honey.
This time, it was honey. Yes, honey. While discussions about royal security, family tensions, and a potentially canceled UK trip dominated the news cycle, attention also shifted toward Meghan's latest products, and critics immediately seized on it. They accused her of doing exactly what they've accused her of for years, finding a way to monetize attention no matter where that attention comes from. Supporters insist she's simply running a business. Critics see something entirely different. They argue that every major controversy somehow ends with another product, another launch, another opportunity to stay in the headlines.
And this is the whole problem, isn't it? Because Meghan sees an opportunity in everything. All of the drama of this trip has suited her because every time she sees more headlines, she thinks, I'm going to tailor a was never mail out. It's weird. And this is the problem. And this is why none of this half in, half out Megxit is ever going to work.
Fair or unfair, that perception has become a huge problem for the Sussexes. Because right now, many people aren't talking about reconciliation. They're not talking about healing. They're not talking about moving forward. They're talking about security fights, business deals, and another royal trip that suddenly looks like it could collapse before it even begins. And if Harry thought the security drama was damaging, the conversation surrounding this trip gets even more uncomfortable when you look at what many royal watchers believe is really happening behind the scenes.
Numerous massive crises of confidence for Harry, because he realizes, holy shit, this is what I'm facing.
Because for all the talk about family, healing, and reconciliation, a growing number of critics believe this visit was never just about seeing relatives. They believe it was about something far more valuable: relevance. Let's be honest. Every time Harry and Meghan appear next to senior members of the royal family, the world's attention immediately returns to them. Headlines explode, social media lights up, television panels spend days discussing every photograph, every interaction, every facial expression. The royal connection remains their most powerful asset. And that is exactly why the possibility of this UK trip generated so much attention.
Now, Harry and Meghan, they've got to do that. They need to recalibrate their royal credentials because that's the only value that exists within the brand. And they need headlines, they need attention, they need clicks, and they need money. All of that now is in peril as the prodigal prince once again creates negative and embarrassing headlines for King Charles. So Prince Harry, we are told, is having second thoughts about bringing Meghan and their children to the UK for what would have been their first meeting with King Charles in 4 years.
For years, Harry and Meghan have tried to build an independent identity outside the monarchy. There were major interviews, multi-million-dollar media deals, podcasts, documentaries, books, lifestyle projects, business ventures. Some succeeded. Others disappeared almost as quickly as they arrived.
The end. There is no money. Harry and Meghan are making no money.
But despite all of those projects, one thing never changed. The stories that generate the biggest reaction are still the royal stories. The stories involving King Charles. The stories involving William. The stories involving Britain. And that's exactly why some commentators believe this visit carried far more importance than anyone was publicly admitting. Because right now, both Harry and Meghan find themselves facing a difficult reality. The public fascination is still there, but the excitement surrounding their independent projects isn't what it used to be.
This U-turn, this drama over security, this threat to cancel the trip comes from Meghan. Is this all a plan? Has this been storyboarded in advance, like one of Meghan's episodes of Suits? So, although the children were not expected to appear at any public engagements, Meghan had been due to accompany Harry to events including visits to the Royal Hospital Chelsea, which is not actually a hospital, even though Meghan loved going to the hospital.
The podcast headlines faded. The documentary headlines faded. Several business projects struggled to generate long-term momentum. And critics increasingly argue that every road somehow leads back to the same destination: the royal family. That's why some observers believe this trip wasn't simply about reconnecting with relatives. It was about restoring value to the Sussex brand. And then there are the little ones. Archie and Lilibet have become one of the most talked about parts of this entire story.
Meghan Markle, who denounced the United Kingdom and the royal family as racist, cruel and hateful, is apparently returning here in just over 2 weeks' time with her children to stay in a royal palace provided by the king himself.
Every time there's speculation about a UK visit, attention immediately shifts toward them. Will they come? Will they meet King Charles? Will new photographs emerge? Will the public finally see more of them? The interest is enormous. And many critics believe Harry and Meghan know exactly how much attention those questions generate. The possibility of Archie and Lilibet returning to Britain instantly transformed what could have been a routine visit into an international headline. But now even that appears uncertain.
Harry and Meghan had announced, or it had been speculated initially, that Harry and Meghan would be returning to the UK with their children for the kickoff and the Invictus Games. And then on Friday, just a couple of days ago, so Friday, June 27th, we got an itinerary for them. What event Meghan was supposed to be at. You know, what sort of the plans were. They were going to go visit Diana's gravesite in Althorp. And they were going to go to a hospital together. And then on Saturday, it was, no. Whoopsie daisy. We didn't get the security that we wanted. So yeah, now the kids and Meghan aren't going. But we're going to be holidaying in Europe.
If the trip collapses, one of the biggest storylines disappears with it. No family reunion, no emotional photographs, no historic meeting, no symbolic moment that could dominate headlines around the world. And that's where things start becoming increasingly awkward for the Sussexes. Because if security really was the deciding factor, many people will understand. But if the trip falls apart after weeks of speculation and anticipation, critics are guaranteed to ask a much harsher question. Why announce so much in the first place? Why allow expectations to build? Why create the impression that a major family moment was approaching if there was still so much uncertainty surrounding the visit? Those questions aren't going away anytime soon. Meanwhile, King Charles once again finds himself trapped in the middle of a situation he never seems able to escape.
I'll tell you why he is slamming his father publicly, because what he's saying is, the issue's never been accommodation, so it's not good enough. It's not good enough that the king is going to give us Buckingham Palace. We need more.
Multiple reports suggest the king remains open to seeing Harry and his grandchildren if the visit goes ahead. And that's hardly surprising. Despite everything that's happened over the last several years, Charles has repeatedly shown a willingness to keep communication channels open. But insiders and commentators alike have suggested that patience inside royal circles is becoming increasingly thin. Not because of one single incident, because of the constant cycle.
They lied about everything to do with their time within the royal family, even when they were within the royal family. They lied about the truth of Archie's birth, even when they were within the royal family. And so it sickens me to see members of the royal rota bend down to these liars.
A new controversy emerges. Headlines explode. Reconciliation is discussed. Then another problem appears. Another disagreement follows. Another public debate begins. And the process starts all over again. For people watching from the outside, the pattern has become impossible to ignore, especially because this latest drama arrived at exactly the moment attention was supposed to be focused elsewhere.
Harry said he'd only come back if the royal family publicly apologized to him.
The Invictus Games were expected to play a major role in Harry's visit. For years, Invictus has been one of the strongest parts of his public image. Even many of Harry's critics acknowledge the impact the project has had on wounded veterans. But once again, conversations about service members and charitable work have been pushed into the background. The headlines aren't about veterans, they're about security, they're about family disputes, they're about royal tensions, and that's a problem.
The British royal family does not need to bow down to its two most hated members. Or let's just say former members now, because Harry may be a royal by blood, but I don't think any of us consider Meghan part of that family.
Because every time controversy overshadows the cause itself, the purpose of the event risks being forgotten. At the same time, another uncomfortable reality continues to follow the Sussexes. Public opinion remains deeply divided. They still have loyal supporters, but they also face enormous levels of skepticism. Every statement is analyzed, every appearance is scrutinized, every decision triggers debate. And right now, that scrutiny may be harsher than it's been in years, partly because expectations were so high. People expected a breakthrough. People expected progress. Instead, they got another crisis. And then there's Prince William. Although much of the attention remains focused on Harry and Charles, many royal commentators continue to point toward William as the biggest obstacle to any meaningful reconciliation.
This guy has been on a descent into madness for a very long time. But he has now just lost the plot altogether. You know, crying in Portugal, sobbing. He's an embarrassment. This is a guy full of life's privileges who should be trying to be a father to those two children who I think are going to be left incredibly messed up as a result of all of this.
Reports for years have suggested that the relationship between the brothers remains deeply damaged. And unlike Charles, William is often portrayed as far less willing to revisit old battles. Whether those reports are entirely accurate or not, one thing is clear. Nobody is expecting a dramatic reunion between the brothers anytime soon, which creates another challenge for Harry.
We knew this day was coming. We knew that he was going to want to leave and to have his life back. We knew that that freedom flight was nothing but a fraud of a flight that he was taking. And so now Harry has confirmed that, hey, I want to go back.
Because even if communication with his father improves, the wider family situation remains incredibly complicated. The divisions haven't disappeared, the tensions haven't disappeared, and this latest controversy certainly hasn't helped. Perhaps that's why so many observers believe the next few weeks could become a defining moment. If the trip goes ahead, Harry and Meghan will face enormous pressure to avoid fresh drama. Every move will be watched, every appearance will be analyzed, every interaction will become headline news. But if the visit doesn't happen, the consequences could be just as significant. Questions about security will continue. Questions about family relationships will continue. Questions about the future of Harry and Meghan's public image will continue. And perhaps most importantly, questions about whether they can ever truly separate themselves from royal controversy will continue as well.
Before you gave up any royal duty, but wanted to have your royal cake and eat it by keeping your titles so you could exploit them and make gazillions of dollars in America to the highest bidder. And what do for that money? You trash your family endlessly, and you're going to keep doing it, as does your wife, who trashes her own family, most of whom she's disowned.
Because after everything that's happened, one reality remains impossible to ignore. Years after leaving royal life behind, Harry and Meghan still can't escape it. And judging by the chaos surrounding this latest UK trip, royal drama may still be the one thing they can never leave behind, no matter how hard they try. And that's what makes this entire situation so fascinating. Because no matter how hard Harry and Meghan have tried to build a life away from the monarchy, they always seem to end up right back in the middle of another royal storm.
They just don't trust them. I mean, Harry to them is like Brooklyn Beckham is to the Beckhams now.
But ultimately, how long will he spend with them? No more than half an hour if it happens. Will Camilla be there? Absolutely not. Will William be there? Absolutely not. Will they meet their cousins? No, they won't. So how much has been repaired here? Nothing.
Think about it. This trip was supposed to be different. The focus was supposed to be on important engagements, on family, on moving forward, on showing the world that years of drama were finally starting to calm down. Instead, the headlines became bigger than ever. Security disputes, questions about whether the trip will even happen, fresh criticism aimed at Harry, new scrutiny surrounding Meghan, and a growing feeling that everything is becoming harder, not easier.
Although Charles is irredeemably weak, the UK authorities are taking no nonsense. And they've stood up to Harry, and they have brought him into contact with the consequences of his own actions. The UK authorities have said, I'm so sorry, but you decided to leave the UK, you gave up your royal duties. So that's how life works. You know, in life, you get good stuff and you get bad stuff, and it's a deal that you make. Every transaction in your life, there is an advantage and there is a compromise. There is a benefit and there is a duty. That is, every transaction in your life contains a good thing and a not so good thing.
What's especially striking is how quickly the narrative changed. One moment, people were talking about a possible return to Britain. The next moment, people were wondering whether Harry and Meghan would show up at all. That's not the kind of attention any public figure wants, because uncertainty creates speculation. Speculation creates rumors, and rumors create headlines that are impossible to control. For Harry, this may be one of the biggest challenges he has faced since stepping away from royal duties. For years, he has argued that leaving Britain was necessary for his family. For years, he has insisted he was building a better future. For years, he has spoken about finding freedom.
We know what this guy is about, and we're never going to trust him again. But he had won over the mainstream media only to blow the whole thing up. And now, trying to make everyone forget, oh no, I didn't blow the whole thing up, we're going back to our plans. It's nuts, because he is nuts.
But critics now argue that instead of escaping drama, he has become trapped in a cycle of it. Every major appearance turns into controversy. Every major announcement becomes a debate. Every major opportunity somehow gets overshadowed by another crisis. And that's exactly what's happening right now. The security argument alone has become one of the most divisive issues surrounding Harry. Supporters believe he is simply trying to protect his family. Critics believe the issue has become a never-ending battle that overshadows everything else.
Sheer stupidity. That is the only explanation for the last week and a half or so of news regarding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's alleged return to the UK. It is sheer unbelievable stupidity, imbecility, idiocracy.
Either way, the result is the same. The conversation is no longer about what Harry is trying to achieve. The conversation is about the conflict itself. And that's a dangerous place to be, because eventually people stop talking about your message and start talking only about your problems. Meanwhile, Meghan faces a challenge of her own. Over the last few years, she has worked hard to establish herself as a businesswoman, entrepreneur, producer, and lifestyle figure. But every new project seems to face the same obstacle.
Now, folks, this gets worse because royal insiders spoke to the Daily Mail newspaper saying that if this trip doesn't happen, the king is going to be incredibly disappointed. He was very keen to have that royal reunion, which demonstrates what a forgiving personality King Charles is. I mean, I would argue irredeemably weak.
The royal drama always arrives first. And when critics saw her latest product launches appearing alongside another major Sussex controversy, many immediately accused her of trying to benefit from the attention. Again, whether that's fair or not almost doesn't matter anymore. Because perception is everything. And right now, a growing number of people believe Harry and Meghan are incapable of separating business from controversy. That perception follows them everywhere. It follows every interview, every announcement, every public appearance, every new venture. And it's becoming increasingly difficult to shake. What's perhaps most surprising is that none of this had to happen.
They run out of ideas, they can't really more work for Netflix or Spotify or any of the main streamers, and their finances are basically in jeopardy over the long term.
The planned UK visit could have been straightforward. Show up, focus on the engagements, keep the spotlight on the causes being supported, avoid unnecessary distractions, leave with positive headlines. Instead, the entire story became consumed by arguments, speculation, and controversy before the trip even began. That's why some commentators believe the real damage isn't whether the visit happens or not. The real damage is what people are talking about. And right now, people aren't discussing charity work. They're not discussing achievements. They're not discussing future plans. They're discussing another Sussex crisis, another public dispute, another chapter in a story that seems to generate drama wherever it goes.
But I can tell you King Charles is still open to a meeting with Archie and Lily, even though it looks like they may only fly into the country for 24 hours.
The biggest question now is simple. What happens next? If Harry and Meghan move forward with the trip, every single detail will be examined under a microscope. Every arrival, every appearance, every interaction, every photograph. The pressure will be enormous. But if the visit falls apart completely, the fallout could be just as dramatic. Because then the focus shifts to an even bigger question. Are Harry and Meghan losing control of their own narrative?
So the media reported the trip is definitely happening. 22 hours later on Saturday evening, they blew the whole thing up. And it was because of security, which their own note had conceded was not available.
For years, they have tried to shape their public image on their own terms. Yet somehow, controversy keeps taking over the story. And that may be the most revealing part of all. Not the security battle, not the criticism, not the speculation. The fact that after everything they've done to move on, the biggest headlines in their lives still seem to come from conflict. Maybe the trip happens, maybe it doesn't. Maybe the security issues get resolved, maybe they don't. But one thing is absolutely certain. The next few weeks could become one of the most important periods Harry and Meghan have faced in years. Because the decisions they make now won't just affect one visit, they could shape public perception of the Sussexes for a long time to come. And judging by the reaction we've already seen, millions of people around the world will be watching every step. So what do you think? Is Harry right to keep fighting over security, or has this latest controversy become another unnecessary distraction? And do you think Harry and Meghan will actually make the trip to Britain, or will the entire plan collapse before it even begins? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to Crown Clash and turn on notifications. We cover the biggest royal stories and breaking developments every single day, so you never miss the latest drama. We'll see you in the next one.